preparing to live stream the meeting. Dun, dun, dun. Still preparing.
You're asking questions, right,
Yes.
Sarah? Okay.
Oh, there we go. So it recorded. So we're a little bit behind. So we are now live streaming. Thank you for joining me today. I'm super, super excited to have this very first interview. Yes, I need to cut the sound on YouTube. Okay. I think that will be good. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today, Lucy and Mary. I'm going to do a quick introduction of the Imperfect English Club, and then I will let you introduce yourselves because that's what we're here for. So the Imperfect English Club, I founded just a few months ago based on the belief that everybody's voice in the world matters and is important. Everybody has something to share, research, perspective, opinion, ideas to share with the world. And you can't do that if you're not comfortable speaking English, because this is a world in which English is just essential to communicate at work, on social media, and international conferences and everything. So this is why I founded the Imperfect English Club. And the purpose of this YouTube channel is to give you guys a voice, because you, Mary and Lucy, are experts in foreign language acquisition. You have some expertise and you have some knowledge that you are able to share with the rest of the world, with foreign language learners. So you guys can get to share all this stuff, and foreign language learners get to learn from you and be better foreign language learners. So that's why we're here. And I think it's wonderful and it's perfect that Dr. Mary Jeannot, you are here today because, well, you're one of the people that got me into this field, that got me interested in teaching English as a second language. So, Mary, you've accomplished a lot of things. In fact, several people have reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, you're doing something with Mary. Please say hi to her. So people know you. You've done a ton of things. You've been in this field for a really long time. Can you tell us maybe the top 3 things that people who might not know you should know about you as a professional?
No, such fun questions. Well, I'm a hippie.
All right.
I'm a little young to be a hippie, but I am really passionate about learning languages. Mm-hmm. I think if you are monolingual, I would consider you to be special education. And right. I think I've been saying that for a very long time. And I think that's finally starting to kind of hit the road now. And people are really starting to believe it. It's really important. I'm a firm believer in imperfection. And I think errors are your friends, mistakes are your friends, and you won't learn languages if you don't take risks.
Right.
And you don't have a sense of invention. And I won't go into what I mean by that. And I've been very lucky to have traveled many places in the world to train English teachers and mm-hmm. teach English, and in many very interesting countries where, it ranges from lots and lots and lots of materials, like in the United States, to absolutely no materials, not even a chalkboard, right. like in the Central African Republic, and everything in between.
Right.
So that's me in 5 seconds or less.
In a nutshell. And you've also worked with a lot of master's students who have done a lot of research. Research is your thing. You know a lot about academic research in this field.
Yeah. So one of the the reasons we're here, and one of I was really glad that we were able to include Lucie Weissova, who is with us today from the Czech Republic, who is my research student about to defend her master's research project today at 2:30 Spokane time.
Yeah.
And I've had lots of research students out in the field and who've done really great things. They've done, they might have done an academic thesis, or they may have done a project like developing a Chinese language camp, or mm-hmm. working with a website, or starting a project in Indonesia. Actually,
sure. All sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And Mary, I wanted to talk today about communicative language teaching, which I'll ask you later to help us define and understand. But that's when you told me, like, hey, you need to meet my student Lucy. She's got a lot to say about that. And so Lucy, Can you tell us your story, who you are, where you're from? We already know you're from the Czech Republic. How you got well, what got you interested in this field, in teaching English as a second language, and your research just a little bit?
Okay, so I'm from Prague, and when I was 18, the dream of mine was rowing in the United States. So that's how I got to the United States. I got the full scholarship to university in Washington
Very
State
nice.
University. And you mentioned the risk. So that was the biggest risk I've taken so far. I knew some English, but I just left my country. I never been in the US before, and I just moved here.
Right.
So it was really big shock for me, and yeah, big transition and like big process of learning English in here.
Right. So it was a big part of the experience you had to have was learning English, but you didn't come to become a teacher or anything like that. You came to row.
Yeah, I was there for rowing, and then I was majoring in different field. But then, like towards the end, I wasn't ready to go home yet, and I really wanted to use the English I've learned. So I was looking at other programs. Maybe I was thinking of getting the certificate, and then I found out about Gonzaga and this program, so I applied.
Okay.
And the first thing I thought was about grammar. I was like, okay, I need to improve my grammar before I start teaching English. And then I realized it's not about grammar, but it's about how to teach, how to be a good teacher.
Yeah, which is quite different.
Very different.
And that's gives us a clue into the differences that you've observed between the way you were taught English and the way you're going to teach English and the way you've been taught more recently.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Like the experience from home, from Europe is so different to the experience in here.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. We'll dive into this a little bit more. But Mary, if you want to get us started, can you tell us what communicative language teaching is, what it can look like?
Yeah, I'd love to. I asked you earlier, do you want me to stay shallow or do you want me to go deep?
Well, we're addressing language learners, not necessarily professionals. So let's keep it accessible.
Okay, so think about language students. When you're learning a language, what is the thing that you want to do with that language? My guess is most of you want to be able to communicate. You want to be able to say something. You want to make yourself heard. You want to make yourself understood. And you probably want to have some fun. Now, you might ask yourself, A, does that happen for you in the classroom? And B, when you leave the classroom, do you feel like you're able to go out and talk to an English speaker, somebody who speaks English? And my guess is, and Lucy will testify to this, my guess is the answer is probably no. So communicative language teaching started about 30 years in our field with the goal of having students be able to communicate not only outside the classroom, but inside the classroom. And inside the classroom gives you an urge to want to speak outside the classroom. So the inside of the classroom and the outside of the classroom, there are no boundaries, right? And in communicative language teaching, you want to create a need to learn language. So everything that you do is set up to learn that language, to learn the target language.
And so to make you excited. And to make you excited. To make you excited to use it outside of the classroom.
Yes, to make you excited. And that's the goal. Every teacher's goal should be, how can I create a need in my classroom for students to learn the language? That should be the goal. How can I create an opportunity for students to really use this language? Okay. So and so everything you do in the classroom should be based on that, not based on grammar. Okay. Although grammar does play a role in communicative language teaching, but it's more inductive, not deductive. So maybe in some of your classes, the teacher explains the grammar rules, you get an opportunity to explain it and to use it, to get drilled in it, to practice, but you don't necessarily understand why or how or under what circumstances those grammar structures are used. Usually in communicative communicative language teaching, you have a situation first, or you have like I said earlier, there's some kind of need that you have to get to. Like you have to, your teacher wants you to be able to get to the train station in the classroom. Imagine that. Your teacher wants you to get to the train station in the classroom.
Right.
So you would have to learn how to say, excuse me, please, how do I get to the North Station? Right? And there's a lot of grammar in there.
Sure.
So the grammar comes from the content, not the other way around.
Okay. Very nice. Yep.
Is that a good start?
Thank you, Mary. That's a great start.
Okay.
Now, Lucie, would you like to follow up and explain to us kind of the way you've been taught English, or at least when you were in school, when you were in the Czech Republic? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So when I was at school, I didn't really think about the way I was taught, but like while being in this program and taking more classes, I see the difference. So like Mary said, communicative language teaching, it's not really a thing from my experience in the Czech Republic. It's like heavily focused on grammar. I mean, grammar is important, of course, but then like all of the classes, like through all the schools I went to, were like grammar focused only. So it meant like it was really teacher oriented. Teacher was explaining the grammar rules, and then like we just work on the exercise in our exercise books, and there wasn't much interaction. And and it causes a lot of problems. So when I moved here, the biggest problem was like talk to people. I was so afraid to talk. So I would rather just don't say anything. I was just thinking in my head. It was all about grammar in my head. I just didn't want to say something incorrect.
So you were self-censoring because you were hoping, you wanted to have perfect grammar before you spoke.
Yeah, because that's what I was taught at school. I was basically told that if your grammar is not perfect, no one's going to understand you.
Right. And it turns out that's not your experience now.
No. Now I know it's the fluency over accuracy, not the other way.
Can you explain what fluency is, what you mean by fluency?
Fluency is just like you're able to talk. You can make mistakes, you can make any errors, but you're just like expanding your communication, your speaking skills.
Sure.
And accuracy, it's more about the grammar and being correct.
Sure. Having the correct grammar, the correct vocabulary, things like that. Sure. But if the conversation flows, go ahead, Mary.
No. Well, I was going to say, but you don't have to throw out the baby of grammar with the bathwater.
That was actually my next question. So what are the pros and cons of both? How do they work together? Because you can't have just one without the other, right? They're both beneficial. Yeah, so I'll let either of you answer. Go ahead, Mary.
Well, I'm going to start by telling you the answer is in the Gonzaga University English Language Center program. Obviously. We have something called ComSem, and we've just built this very elaborate program. But basically, the idea is all the conversations are student generated. They pick the topics. That way, if they don't like the topics, they have to choose. They have student owned. So if they say something's boring, it's their problem. They have to fix it. So we do a lot of backup training. It takes a lot of work on our parts to get the students trained to where we want them to be, incredibly learner-centered. They have, in a nutshell, because it's pretty complicated, and it involves a lot of different structures and outcomes. But one of the beauties of this thing is it's student-generated conversations, student-led. So it frees the teacher up then to do all kinds of things from behind the scenes.
Sure.
And one of the things we do is we take a lot of grammar errors, but it's completely uninterrupted. The students get very used to us sitting there, so we've become quite invisible. And the students are, by the time the students are trained to do this, they're very relaxed. And then we have a kind of another elaborate system of taking grammar notes that are all online now. And the students can then go back and fix their grammar errors, either orally or written. And it becomes their own grammar book. It becomes an organic grammar resource just for them because it's their errors.
Their work.
And yes, and they can see where the language interference or the language transfer is coming from their particular language.
Yeah, that's great. It's very interesting. This is very similar to what I do with the Imperfect English Club. Different format, but very similar idea. Lucie, do you have something that you want to add about the role of both types of teaching?
Yeah, I just wanted to add what Mary said right now. So I've been working with the students in the ELC program, and I could tell that they really enjoy this program because like it's different way of teaching, and like the corrective feedback is so different. So for example, I've had students from Japan, and they're just used to what I was used to, getting like your test back with the red pen, and everything is wrong. And that really like doesn't help your confidence at all. So I think like this is much better option for them to see their own errors in different way.
Yeah, and do you think that it's interesting because it helps build their confidence, which is obviously really important when you're a non-native speaker and you're trying to get comfortable with that. Confidence is essential. Do you think that it takes them a little time to realize that they're actually learning? Because a lot of times we're so used to, in order to learn, I need to get the exercise correct, right? I need to do this drill of 10 questions and get them all right. And that's how I know I'm learning. This is really different.
Yeah, it takes them time, and they need to be reminded that like they might not see the progress, but they're improving. And it's really cool because like I share the same experience. So when I teach them, I can see myself 5 years ago when I was afraid to make any error, and I felt like my English is not getting any better. So I'm trying to help them and just like share my experience, and I feel like that's really beneficial.
It's probably very reassuring for them. Nice. Very cool. And so, Lucie, you are defending your master's thesis in a few hours, which is very exciting. Do you want to tell us maybe a little bit more about the topic, since it's very much related to this, but can you tell us what your thesis is about more specifically, and then maybe Mary and Lucie together, or maybe just Lucie, depending. Can you tell us some of the conclusions that you've drawn from your research? This is super exclusive.
Okay, so basically what I was researching is how to make English classes more communicative and effective. So during my study at Gonzaga, I've been reflecting on my own English experience from home. And I see a lot of differences between what I was taught at home and like what I was taught in here. And I just started reflecting on my experience, and I realized there wasn't much communicative language teaching. We were not practicing speaking or interaction in the class. And I started asking my friends and people around me, and what's their experience? I thought it was just me with negative experience, but then I realized it's more people than me. And just going home and traveling with my friends, they were so hesitant to speak English. They always said like, "Oh, Lucie, go ahead, you speak." Like, no, you need to practice. So like I was observing, and then I was like, I met a lot of people who shared the same experience. So I want to do research and see like if it's just me and my friends or more people. Yeah, so I used a survey about English education in the Czech Republic, in which I was asking about the proficiency, I was asking about satisfaction and just overall experience, like what's the skill that's mostly practiced in the English courses and what's the skill that's the least practiced. And yeah, the results show that everything is really grammar oriented, and there is no communication and speaking opportunity.
And that's problematic in your experience and your observations.
And when I did my survey, I was hoping for like 50 people to reply, to complete my survey. And at the end, I got over 80, and I got a lot of feedback. Like people were actually messaging me individually, and they were sharing like how dissatisfied they are.
So clearly this is a problem. Like you identified something that was very problematic in the Czech Republic, as I know it is in France in particular, but not only in a lot of other countries. You mentioned Japanese students also. That's just for a lot of people, but frustration. clearly.
Exactly. And then when I saw the number, there was one question like, what's your overall experience with the English education in the Czech Republic? Are you satisfied? And 80% people said they're very unsatisfied.
Wow.
So that was like shocking number, which made me expand
it's shocking. It's shocking. It's problematic. It's really problematic. We live in a world where you can't really afford to not be somewhat comfortable in English.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And Mary, she saw some of the feedback from my participants, which they're really aware of the gaps and they really pay attention to teachers. And a lot of time they mention the teachers don't want to speak English in their English classes. So they're teaching in Czech.
In the native language. Yeah. Go ahead, Mary.
Sarah, this is where we go a little deeper into CLT. And CLT cannot be a unique individual proposition.
All right, that's what I was going to go into.
One of the, we've got to excuse these teachers because they aren't getting, if they want to try something new, they aren't getting institutional support.
They're not being trained.
CLT really needs to be a grassroots effort. And that's why we can't talk about the hegemony, the imposition of CLT, because we don't know we have to understand very well the context.
Sure.
Which is why we need to be ethnographers in our own schools and our own language systems, right?
So Dr. Mary Jeannot doesn't go into countries and be like, I know what you need to do. We're going to do it my way. And that's it. It's a lot more complex than that.
Exactly.
And Lucie, that's what you're trying to do. What you're proposing is based on research and lots of data and information, a curriculum that would be realistic in the Czech Republic in the situation that it's in right now with the support teachers are getting from the institutions, from the government and all that.
Yeah, let me just say one more thing because I don't think I really got to my point. The point is, if Lucie's teachers in that school have never experienced CLT the way the three of us have, how on earth do we expect them to teach it like that?
Of course. Of course. And it requires a lot of work. It looks easy when it's being done, when it's being performed, so to speak, in a classroom, but it's actually a ton of work for everyone. Like you said, training the students, training the teachers, and all the feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for adding that, Mary. Lucie, do you want to tell us maybe some of the conclusions that you've drawn, like some of the things that you would have teachers do differently if you've identified those? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think just like working in a group, so just letting people work together in the classroom and make sure like the classrooms are always more student oriented than teacher oriented like they're currently. Yeah, so giving students more space and encourage them and be more of the mentor and observer. Help them if they need instead of being in charge all the time.
Okay, nice. So starting to get the classroom to be a little bit less teacher-centered and a little bit more learner-centered. Yeah, which is challenging when you have to give up control as a teacher or some control.
And then like Mary said, like I feel like there's a lot of, there needs to be a lot of like educating.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of stereotyping in the teaching in the Czech Republic, but it's hard when you are taught by older teachers, and that's what you learn from them, and then you're passing it, you know?
You're repeating the same pattern, over generations of teachers. So since this is meant for language learners, maybe for each of you, what are your top recommendations based on your research, based on what you know, based on what you've seen and done? What are your recommendations for people who are trying to learn a language? Maybe they're a professional in their 40s or something like that, right? And they don't have very many opportunities to practice English. They were in school many years ago. They don't have formal instruction anymore. Do you have any suggestions, any ideas, any things they can do that you can suggest for them?
Well, Sarah, one of my first suggestions, I remember I learned grammar. I learned grammar translation in high school, and recently I've been doing grammar translation online and sitting through some lessons. And I have to say, as an older person, now I really appreciate it. So let's not throw out grammar translation completely, because there's some really cool things.
It's very reassuring too. It's structured and nice and reassuring.
And yes, exactly. It's not so scary. but I have to ask the students out there, would you rather learn sentences like, the cat of my aunt is more treacherous than the dog of your uncle? Or
Right.
those Zags, that Gonzaga basketball team really kicked ass.
Yeah, that's right.
What would you rather learn? What would you rather learn in class, boys and girls?
Right.
But you students, over the years, I've been teaching lots and lots of students. You have the right and the responsibility to talk to your teachers about the kind of language that you want.
Okay.
You have power. If I can tell you anything else, you have power. Tell your teachers, tell your faculty how you want to learn language and what kinds of cool things you want to bring into the classroom. And social media is playing a big part in that. And how can you bring social media into the classroom now? And don't be mad at your teacher, just include your teacher and know that everybody in your class is a student and a teacher.
Right.
Especially these days, when you're dealing with somebody like me who doesn't have any tech experience, and I absolutely have to count on my Gen Y and my Gen Z and my millennials to help me be a better teacher.
Yeah. So remember your rights and your responsibilities. You have to state your expectations with the teachers, and you can contribute things as a learner because you're also a teacher of sorts, one way or another, and your classmates are too.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mary.
And
that's
bring
great.
in
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring in ideas. Don't be stuck like repeating the same pattern also.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. How about you, Lucy? Do you have any additional suggestions?
I would just encourage people to take a risk. Like, don't be hesitant, like speak as much as you can, practice, talk to your professors. Like, if you have any questions, if there's more stuff you want to learn, just ask questions. Because I was the opposite. That's why it took me long.
What do you have any specific advice for somebody who is too scared to ask or too uncomfortable to ask? Can you think of things that they could do to get themselves past that? Because we all know, I think it's the case for a foreign language, just as it is for a lot of other things. That first step is really the hardest step, right?
Just build a relationship with your teacher and with classmates. That's my advice. Then you're much more comfortable, and it's going to be easier to learn.
It's a relationship that you've built that you're comfortable with, and therefore it's safe, and it becomes a safe space to try something new and different. Very cool. Thank you. And is there anything else you'd like to add about this, ladies, either of you?
Well, again, I think
Mary, so many things.
No, I think that, a language, any classroom is your classroom, it's not the teacher's classroom, it's everybody's classroom. But don't be too hard on your teachers either.
Okay, but it's empowering. You're empowering the learners, and you want them empowered.
Exactly. And like Lucy said, mistakes are your friends. And if you help create a safe space in your classroom, it's okay to make a lot of mistakes. I'm working with a group of Central and South Americans right now. I'm teaching them in the evening, and many of them are afraid to make mistakes. First of all, they're English teachers too, so they don't want to sound like they don't know. But it's like you have to create a sense of trust.
Yes.
And you have to tell them, then I try to learn some Spanish or some Czech or some French. And I like making mistakes because it shows that none of us is perfect.
It makes them feel safe also.
One of the reasons I love Sarah's club, Imperfect. I mean, I was immediately drawn to that title. None of us is perfect. Not your teachers, not your fellow students. None of us is perfect.
That's true. It's true. And it's really interesting when you're talking about English teachers. I have a friend who's an English teacher and who refuses to speak English in front of me. And it's really challenging. You're right. I think when you put yourself in a situation where you demonstrate that, you're learning too, and it's tough for you too, and it's okay. Like, I embrace it. I think that's a great piece of advice, and I will write that down for myself. I'll figure out a way to help my friend.
Yeah. I've been there when I was younger and a French teacher. I didn't want to speak French. It was too intimidating. So I wish I would have had I wish I'd known what I know now.
Right. But now you're
Yeah.
speaking French and you're not shy about it anymore.
But true.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I had a few more questions, but we've taken quite a bit of time. Is there anything really important that you guys wanted to add?
I want Lucie to have the last word.
Yeah.
From the student, future teacher perspective.
Yeah, just don't be afraid. Just take a risk and speak as much as you can, like I said. And it's okay to make mistakes. That's really important to remember all the time.
Yeah. And don't be afraid, because really, what's the worst that can happen? People are going to ask you a question, and then you're going to try to figure it out. You're going to negotiate with them.
Yeah, people will understand you. That's what I learned.
Yeah, that's right.
Shocking, right? How much they actually understand. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you, Mary and Lucie. It's been so fun. Thank you for being my first guest on this brand new YouTube channel. Super excited.
We're so honored, Miss Sarah.
Yeah. And Mary, I forgot to say this, but I'm going to say this on air. Lots of people contacted me and said to say hi to you from them. And we're so excited to hear that you were there, and said she was my great teacher and she taught me so much. So now you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody around the world. I love you, and I don't forget you.
Never, right? You're on social media, right?
Oh, good. Oh, great.
Sort
Thanks,
of.
Sarah.
Okay, never mind. Don't harass Mary on social media.
Yeah.
You can harass me, though, on my website, on Instagram, whatever you want. Yeah. Thank you all so much. Lucie, good luck for your thesis defense today, although I am not worried. You're going to do awesome. This is great.
She will.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. I'm going